Let's go now to our friend Bimnet Abibi from Galaxy Trading. As always, Bimnet, welcome to Galaxy Brains.
Thanks for having me.
What a time it continues to be in markets, but let's jump past the big, new Bitcoin all-time high today, blah, 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 assuming we're in a longer Bitcoin bull market. That will happen a lot, so we're not going to we're doing well. Things are going up. It's an exciting time. But let's talk about the data this week because the big data topic was CPI.
Yep.
I guess it came in slightly hot. What happened?
It was reasonably hot. Core CPI came in at 0.4 month on month. I believe it was 0.36 unrounded, so just got the nudge higher. Key areas where we wanted to see some slowdown in the rate of inflation, like measures like super core inflation, we're still high on 4.2 handles. We didn't see goods deflation that we wanted to see. Things like car prices were a little bit more elevated, and overall it just shows you an economy that hasn't fully tackled inflation, and that the Fed really, given the risk of reinflation, can't be too aggressive with rate cutting.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's one of those data series you can slice and dice and find bits and pieces that look good. Like, for example, like owner's equivalent rent, which had shown a surprising pop in January due to seasonal stuff, did come off a bit, as most market participants had expected. And then if you look at the reaction in fixed income and bond markets, you've repriced higher by, let's say, 7 basis points at this point, 8 basis points. And so it was an important reading, and it's going to color March FOMC, and that's going to really be kind of setting the tone for markets on a go-forward basis. And so it was an important data series. It showed that the economy still is dealing with high inflation, and the market is digesting it in a way that is saying that the data is meaningful, but it's not, earth-shatteringly high number.
Right. So we're kind of, it felt like a slight creep higher, but not a jump.
Correct.
Is that so? Yeah.
But at the same time, it really depends because, you have to contextualize it with so many different things. Like right now, I'm looking at crude oil that's moving up through $80 a barrel, like West Texas Intermediate.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at, if you just look at the charts of month over month inflation, it looks like it bottomed, not like it's going lower.
Right.
It looks like you've had a lot of the disinflation you're gonna have.
Yeah.
And so it becomes that much easier to surprise higher once you get all these high numbers roll off and you just have low numbers. And so and then you have to contextualize it with the response function of the Fed. The Fed said they wanted to see further evidence of inflation decline, to start engaging in rate cuts.
And this isn't that.
This is not that.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's not that. It's not further evidence of decline.
Yeah, it's well off of the 7-8% prints that we were getting a year ago.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're telling me your core PCE target's 2%, you're still a ways off.
What are we at, 3.6, as he said?
Well, that's the core CPI. But
Yeah.
We'll see where PCE comes in.
Yeah.
But you're still on
Yeah.
a 3 handle on core PCE.
Right.
And so it's do you want to start cutting ahead of your goal? And then the question is, should you even be targeting 2%?
Right.
Are you comfortable with a higher than 2% sort of neutral rate?
Yeah.
And so it's getting very tricky. And then the most important dynamic, which is tough for the Fed to even acknowledge properly, is this idea of a fiscal constraint that's put on them, because the Treasury is issuing tons and tons of debt, and they've got to finance their entire book of debt that's rolling off every year. And so as you have Treasuries maturing, they have to be refinanced at front end interest rates that are around 5%. Right. So imagine a 2.7 average duration or something like that, rolling off, and it's got to go to 5.
It gets a lot more expensive.
And the government is just printing so much.
I forget there's a variety of ways to cut it, but if you it's trillion to the national debt every 100 days at this point or something,
Yes.
which is just
Yeah.
insane.
Absolutely.
I saw Balaji Srinivasan had posted a linear and exponential regression, and it's like, dude, we're at 100 trillion in like 20 years. Like
Yeah.
less.
It's
Like
insane.
it's getting very scary.
Well, my favorite thing that I saw yesterday was Elon Musk, and I think it was an Elon Musk tweet, and I think it was totally underappreciated by the market. Basically, he retweeted a guy that said, "Oh, I've been getting shilled this awful
This new scam coin.
this new scam coin,"
Yeah.
and he's like, "There's 27 million outstanding.
Yeah.
There's one node operator, and
Pretty
there's
centralized.
infinite supply,
Right.
and the supply is increasing at this,
This rate.
absurd rate."
Yeah.
And then the butt of the joke is that that's actually the U.S. dollar.
Yeah.
And by all intensive purposes, I mean, that's exactly what's happening. And, this is symptomatic of all the things we've seen in emerging market economies when you go into, crazy periods of inflation and people.
This is what happens.
Yeah.
Like this,
and the
it's
math,
not.
you can't argue with the math. Tell me the government's going to cut deficits,
know.
balance the budget.
Especially now, we're in an election year.
election year. We got
We
a
saw
couple
the proposed
wars,
budget
so-
from the White House.
Yeah.
Although I should say, by the way, there was something just for
The
the
Bitcoin
news for the audience.
budget?
Yes, they have a 30% proposed excise tax on Bitcoin miners on the electricity cost, not on their revenues. By the way, regardless of which it was, that would be prohibitive. But fear not on this or the Biden. The total,
mean,
the top line number.
yeah.
The Congress hasn't passed a budget in time since 1996. Did you know that?
Well, makes sense. And
That's almost
why their
30 years
credit's
ago.
getting downgraded, right? And
Yeah, I
stuff
mean,
like that.
but it really is scary.
It's so
The
scary.
idea that like
And-
we just
and
print
peop-
forever and
People take comfort in the idea of MMT, basically, at this point. They're like, well, the Fed balance sheet will just absorb it. But there are so many moral hazards to that. People don't understand. The Treasury releases a report every year that present value calculates all future liabilities of the government. That includes Medicaid, Social Security, all of the social safety nets, defense budget stuff, etc. That figure is north of $100 trillion.
yeah,
$100 trillion.
In today's dollars.
In today's dollars.
Yeah.
It's like north of 120.
yeah,
But there's no way to pay for it.
none.
You're telling me the central bank is just going to print trillions and trillions more dollars to absorb all this stuff, and it's not going to have any real world consequences? It's absurd.
Yeah,
The average, person, that is sophisticated in markets that, sees this issue and thinks you can get through it, they're like, well, we'll become Japan,
yeah,
right? We'll just absorb that. But we've never seen this happen.
yeah.
And
And by the way, I like your point about the average smart investor who thinks it can be absorbed. There are people
tons
like
of
that.
people like that.
There are also a lot of very smart people who are very, very worried. Very worried. I mean, even
Larry
people we
Fink.
don't like. Larry Fink, Jamie Dimon, right?
Yeah.
Like Stan Druckenmiller, Paul Tudor
Yeah.
Jones. They talk.
I
These
mean,
are among the
Jam-
best investors in American
Absolutely.
history.
Absolutely. And everybody's looking for a way to hedge that risk.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin is absolutely part of that narrative now. And you can't ignore it.
Yeah.
And that's why it's going higher.
Yep. Imneta Bibi, my friend from Galaxy Trading, as always, thank you for coming on Galaxy Brains.